Hey, there we go. Audio. Fantastic. That was all intentional. That was just a test. You passed. Well done. Oh dear. I can't remember what I was saying, Moosh. Probably the best thing you will have ever heard that will never be heard by anyone. That's tragic, that is. Where's your shout out? It's in the post. It's coming any day now. I can feel it. It's coming, Adele. I mean, to be fair, we've not had a technical issue for, I don't know, a couple of streams now. It feels like it's been longer than that. We've had a pretty good run. We were definitely due. Right, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so design review today, but I feel like for this one, we're going to dig into one design in particular. If we get time for more, great, throw your designs at me. There's a link in the stream description if you do want to submit your work for a chance to have it reviewed. And there's a link in the Discord as well. But there's a lot I love about this design and a lot that I think could be improved to make it more impactful. So we're going to focus on this one because I feel like I can add some value here. Yeah, there's so many things it does right, and the retouching is absolutely brilliant. The effects are great. But I think there's other things to do with type that is kind of holding it back a little bit. So the photography side of it, that's just excellent. Shadows, reflections, lighting effects, really, really cool. But the type side of it, I think, needs a bit more work. And we can methodically work through that in a minute. But we'll get into all that. Someone has to keep track of these technical issues. Let's see how long of a streak we get. I mean, it wouldn't be a very long streak, would it? Come on, it'd be disappointing without the technical issues. It's much more fun when things go wrong. Watch the panic. Yeah, the pixel effect does it really cool. This sort of effect here, it kind of reminds me of like when I first started learning Photoshop, because I'm not sure how they made it. This is all layered up very nicely. Very, very good job. But it looks like they sort of did a mosaic pixelate effect and then did the, what is it? Stylize. Oh, I can't select it, but it's called like it's under one of these glowing edges or find edges, and it makes them glow. Then maybe with a blending mode. That would be my guess. And then obviously masking it out in certain places. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Hey, thank you, Adria. New member. Yeah, no, it's I think it's brushed in. They would have made the base effect based on the background, I think, and then like a duplicate, added the effect, the pixelate, and then finding glow edges or whatever it's called, I forget. And then just masked it into a few select places. We can unpick the file in a minute as well. We'll go through the layers. Tweedle. Tweedledee. Right. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. In fact, have I got... Let's put my phone on silent. It's probably a good start, isn't it? There we go. Do not disturb enabled. Screen recording. Should probably record that just in case some absolute magic happens. God, so much to remember. I need like a checklist on the wall or something. Blah 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 blah. Audio check. Blah blah blah. Right, let's get that running. Bosh. I know, so close. I'm new here. Yeah, bullshit. Let me get my drink and be back. All right, no rush, no rush. I've got a full decaf coffee here, so we're all good. I'm looking forward to this. I need to get one of Poppy's designs sometimes, because I do, we've done it before, but I do a lot of it off camera, but she does like a lot of her design work, and I then sort of tweak it and make suggestions and things. And every time I'm doing it, I'm like, this is, I should capture this because it's so interesting, like looking at the different decisions and moving this here and tweaking that and adjust that. It's like a game of Tetris sometimes, trying to just map out. And I feel like that's what we're going to do a lot of with this, is it's just reorganizing things, adjusting the hierarchy. And I feel like a lot of the text has sort of gone in okay, but it's not like very practical. So we will get to that. Vacuum. I still find that video hilarious. You remember when Poppy was doing the vacuum segment and just grabbed Eli's head and went, oh! It's in the Discord if you've not seen it. It's flipping brilliant. I love it. Right. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, right. I've got the original. So we'll do a comparison at the end. Right. Let's get started. So we have what looks to be like a poster design. And first things first, I think we should probably go and unpick all the layers so we can just get our head around it. So if we turn it all off, we've got the background. So we've got this textured background here, which is quite interesting. We've got some light glow effects. We've got a shadow there and a reflection from the controller, but we have not turned the controller on yet. We'll turn that one on next, actually. There we go. So that kind of makes sense. Now looking at this, I feel like the shadows feel a little bit too soft, and they're quite dark as well. They're quite black. Usually if you have a controller in like a colored scene, like obviously there's a lot of blue here, the shadows would inherit some of the color of the surface that they're on. So very rarely will I ever use fully black shadows. You know, what I would do is I would sample the darkest part of this blue and then push it a smidge darker. But there's a big difference between using that color and using straight black that doesn't have any sort of hue in it whatsoever. So that's something I do see quite a lot. So if you do have shadows, try and add a little bit of the color into the shadow, even if it's quite dark. And I feel like here as well, there's a slight mismatch with the shadow and the controller. You can see here the exposure isn't quite balanced. So the shadow's super dark, but the darkest part here is actually quite light. And where that bit touches the ground, you would have more shadowing there, because this would be very, very dark. And then the shadow underneath, that contact shadow, would be very dark as well. And the shadow as well would be a lot harder here because it's closer to the surface, and then as it gets further out it would get softer. We're really drilling into the nitty gritty here, but these are the details that I think, these little details that matter. And then we've got the reflection here, which I think is fine. Usually you can sort of cheat a reflection depending on the angles. There's an interesting texture on here. I'm not entirely sure where the image came from, but it's a cool looking controller. Yeah, really cool. Right, let's carry on turning these on. So we've got more text. We'll ignore that. We'll ignore that. Roller. Right, this is nice. Now, what I love about this is this really adds a sense of depth. So you've got these ones here that are behind. They're very blurred out. So again, it creates that sense of depth and distance. We've got these ones here that are a bit closer. They're more in focus. Again, you could blur these a little bit. So you have the bits in the background blurred, the bits in the foreground blurred, and then the bit in the middle, like a sandwich. The bit in the middle, which is the controller, super in focus, sandwiched between two extreme blurs. I do quite like that approach, but this looks great as well. Again, it just helps to sell that sense of depth. And then we've got the effect folder, which, yeah, there we go. Okay, this is interesting. So I feel like they've baked this effect into the text. So it's going to be somewhat tricky to adjust the text. Yeah, so if I move that text and resize it, reposition it, this won't make sense. So we might have to lose that effect or try and recreate it. Not entirely sure yet. And then we've got the badge, which has got a nice blur behind it. We've got the shop now button. And then we've got the main body of text. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I think is I'm going to turn off the text. I think this one's got a logo. We'll put that in its own folder for a second. So we'll just call that logo. We'll leave that one turned off. And shop now, there we go. We'll just call that button so I can remember what it actually is. And then the roller. No, it's the effect, isn't it? I think we might leave the effect folder off. And what I'm going to try and do is, yeah, let's grab these. I'm going to try and sandwich this with some interesting blur. I think the position of the controller is okay. I think it feels pretty central. The angle here, this probably isn't an issue, but it's the kind of thing my brain picks up on. I'm looking at this roller and I'm looking at the angle and it's sort of almost the same angle as the controller, but not quite. My brain wants to line it up or move it entirely. It kind of feels a little bit awkward, sort of almost covering the controller, but do you know what I mean? It feels a bit off. So if I were to just, well, first of all, let's make it a smart object so any blurs we apply won't be permanent. So if I were to move this down here so it's not obscuring the product, it's not kind of coming into the design space, if you like, too much. And then this one up here, it's got a nice little curve to it. What do I want to do with that? We could maybe smart object that as well, Dan. Do not forget that. Yeah, maybe something like this. Maybe. So it's there. It kind of helps frame the scene a bit, but it's not overly dominant and not getting in the way too much. So let's just try and put a Gaussian blur on it. It's a lot more low intensity on the computer than the field blur. And this will do the job. So this is slightly out of focus. We'll go 5, and then this one here. I think we're going to go a bit more nuclear with this and go 5. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go for like, yeah, maybe 20. This is going to be super close. And what I might do actually is scale this one up even bigger. So again, we're just trying to reinforce that sense of depth. It's quite chunky now. Could try something like that. Yeah, nice. And then this one here in the background is like hyper blurred. I don't think I can change that. What we'll do actually, because I can't edit that, I'm going to duplicate this one and I'll recreate that, but now I can adjust the blur myself. So there we go. Let's go for, we still want it to be like super blurry because we've got lots of text information that's going to go on top. So we do want it to be okay for us to lay that text over without it looking like it's colliding. Let's go for 30. 2030. There we go. That'll do for now. And this one here, we could turn that off, to be fair, actually. Maybe we get rid of that one and move this up to occupy that space. And then I'll dial this one back down to 25. So there's no real science to this. I'm just kind of looking at it and just trying to sort of feel out what works in terms of composition. Maybe move this down a bit. And bring that one a bit closer. So the controller now sort of sits centrally on the canvas, but it also kind of feels balanced between those two rollers, as they're called. Hey, Kaya. Right, why aren't I using my stylus? Oh no, it's not even set right. Hang on. Quick. Sort out the settings, Dan. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so there we go. We've got a more simplified background. In terms of the whole pixelated effect, we could keep it I mean, let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. We'll copy merged, we'll paste, we'll convert to smart object just so we can change everything. And then what was it? Maybe a pixelate and mosaic. Make some squares, not too big, maybe 20 on the size. This might not work, by the way. This is one idea off the cuff. Oh no, it's going to be a filter gallery thing, isn't it? Oh, I've not been in here for a long time. Oh, this is where I started my Photoshop journey. There we go. Stylized glowing edges. You can play with all the bits and pieces there. And then we've got that we can blend in. So we'll probably, it's slightly different. I kind of like this version actually. So maybe a linear dodge, mosaic. And I was going to actually take the color out of it because on the original it had some sort of colorization, but it seems to have done that already, which is fine. So now what we've got to do is hold Alt or Option and click to add a layer mask. Grab white as the brush color. Nice, delicious, soft round brush. And then, oh yeah, we can go and brush some of this in. Just a little bit of that. There we go. A little bit of this, a bit of that. There we go. Boom. Nice and subtle. 30% flow. So again, real subtle. Maybe just over some of those rollers. You know, we can turn this off and on if we don't like it, but it's a nice little technical nod, and I think it complements the product shot as well. So we're going to go mosaic texture. We'll keep you down there with the background. And yeah, we can get rid of that now. We're not going to use that anymore. Effect, be gone. Right, let's turn the product image on again. I think what we're going to do actually, we'll bunch all this together and then we'll call this, we'll call it image. We'll call this image because then what we can do is turn this off, on, and lock it. Are they my rollers? They are my rollers. Oops. Let's get them in there as well. Let's get those layers named properly. There we go. Fantastic. So I can just now lock all that stuff in one go and then turn on the text and work on this independently. So I think for this, we kind of want to throw all the pieces on the board, if you like, before we start rearranging them. Now, first of all, do I have the fonts? Ah, we've loaded up in Illustrator. Oh dear. No font. That looks really familiar, actually. That M. Oh, I should know this. What font is that? I don't know what this one is. Can anyone recognize that font? Does anyone fancy a bit of detective work? It's a very cool font. We might not need it, actually. We might just be able to keep that the same. In fact, we might be able to keep... Oh, it's difficult. This one here. This is all vector graphics. So I would never typically do this. You know, I would just type the text in Photoshop. Okay, hang on. Let's go and try and find this font. GCEPIC Pro. Could they not have just picked a word? Oh, is it? Oh, hang on. GC Epic Pro. Okay, is a word. My bad. Right, let's see if this works. It's just going to make things a lot easier. Ah, that is the same font for the thing I was looking for a minute ago as well. So this could be really handy. Yeah, so we should be able to type that. So if I now go RGB Pro, oof, that's a good rhyme, Dan. Well done. Yeah, so the text is all a little bit messy here. You know, if you're doing the work in Photoshop, I would just do all the text in Photoshop as well. I'm not entirely sure why it was done and saved as vector smart objects. But there we go. Montserrat. No, it's not quite Montserrat, the main one. This one here with that M is so distinctive. But to be honest, I could use Montserrat and get away with it. There's another one that's quite similar that I like. Active Grotesque. This is an Adobe font. No, I think I'm going to stick with Montserrat, actually. I quite like that. Right, so we've got that one. And then we've got... I forgot what it is already. Is it GC Epicading? Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Right, so we've got one bit of text there. We've got the word gaming here. It's just going to make this a lot easier and smoother rather than me trying to fudge fonts around. This text here. What's this? This should be a font. Yes, there we go. Gotham. Right, I've got that font. Fantastic. So we don't have to muck around with that. Okay, so in terms of the title, let's look at that first. RGB Pro Gaming Controller. I think that is fine. That is really good. The question is about the logo. So you have the logo at the top. Sometimes, like, it does look nice centered at the top, and it almost introduces. It's almost like saying introducing, and then here's the product. Sometimes though you can put it out the way because this will give more room for the message to shout. And if it's a poster, we want to get attention. What's more important? Bigger letters, getting the message out about the controller, the product. If they do want it, the logo is there. Do we want to put the logo top, front and center? Maybe. But I think for this one, I'm going to stick it down here because there's a nice space for it. We've got the blur as well. So this is, even with the yellow, it's got no problem reading off this background because it's just super blurry. So I'm going to nestle it out there for now. And then I can move all this, can't I? So then we go bump, ba-dum, and then we've got the word controller. Let's get that in. Now this font is very tight. The letter spacing or the tracking is very close together. So I think I'm going to track this. Oh, -10. Okay, so let's see what 0 looks like. Yeah, not too bad. I'm going to track it slightly wider. 20. We'll try that. Just so we don't have any letters crashing into each other. And let's bring this down. RGB Pro Gaming Controller. Right, so in terms of the lettering, obviously we want to make sure this is centrally aligned and aligned centrally on the artboard as well. And at the moment, we've got 3 different sizes in just the title alone. So when you start having lots of different fonts and font sizes, it can make the design look very untidy just by having too many different fonts and font sizes. And I think this probably has got that problem already, you know, because we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got this one here going around in the badge, the limited time offer. We've got the Play Smarter, which is tracked super wide. We've got Win Faster, which I think is another size. Yeah, another size. We've got this, which is a bigger size than this and slightly bolder. And then we've got Shop Now, which is bold and italic. You know, and if you keep in count, that's what, 6, 7, 8, something like that. So we're just going to tighten things up where we can. So let's have a look at this bit. What is the keyword we want to pull out here? RGB Pro Gaming Controller. Well, it's either RGB Pro or gaming. Because we have the word controller, we could create some quite nice balance between these two words. So if I were to set that at 28 and bring it down a pinch and bring this up a pinch, so they're both 28 now. We can space them like so. Yeah, let's try something like that. And then just obviously make sure the spacing here and here is equal down to the last pixel. And then we've got a little bit of breathing room top and bottom. We could bring it up a bit if we wanted, but that's fine for now. So I think the only other thing I'm going to do is just maybe track the word gaming a little bit tighter. Just a tiny bit. When text is bigger, you can usually tighten the spacing between the letters up a little bit. But when you have that same tracking value, so you see here, I'm using -20. If I shrink this text down really small, -20 on tiny text might visually look too tight because you're seeing it from it's like a much smaller size. So sometimes you might have this font at this size, -20. When you shrink it down for smaller text, like maybe down here or something, you might want to track it at -10 or 0, just so it doesn't look too tightly packed. This down here as well, play smarter, win faster. To me, I feel like maybe that is even more important than this. Because when someone sees this, we're trying to sell them on the controller. So just to ask everyone in the chat, if you were going to buy this controller, would you be what's more likely to make you buy it? RGB Pro Gaming controller or play smarter, win faster? Or I think actually play faster, win smarter. Flipping those lines around might work better. I don't know, maybe not. Are we going to sell people on the idea of you should buy this controller based on what it is, very functional, or are we going to sell them on the benefit that it can provide to them? If you buy this controller with all its flashing lights, you're gonna play smarter and you're gonna win faster. Exactly. Yeah. So play smarter, win faster, play smarter. Yeah. And this is something I see all the time. You know, a lot of clients, they love their logo, so they're going to go, oh yeah, we'll put our logo nice and big. We'll make our logo big because we love our logo. No one cares. No one cares about your logo. Put it out of the way. If they need to find it and see what your company's called, they'll find it. You want to sell them on the benefit. So let's try this now, actually. So we're going to duplicate this. We'll leave all the fancy tracking and things for now. And so we're going to go play smarter. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily play faster, would you? I think I got a bit carried away with myself there. Play smarter, win faster. Now, these two things, they're two benefits and they're two actions. If you buy this controller, you're going to play smarter and win faster. At the moment, this hierarchy is a bit weird. It doesn't make sense. Why have we given more importance to one than the other? So I think there's a few different ways we could play this. We could keep them the same size, so they're balanced like this. So there we go. Play smarter, win faster. Obviously, this is what I was talking about with the tracking. You see these letters are getting a bit uncomfortably close. So we might have to look at that. And these are two different fonts as well. But don't worry about that for now. In fact, no, we should worry about that. Let's naughty Dan. Let's get them using at least the same font. There we go. So that's fine. They're both kind of on the level. And then what you could do is you could, pull out a key color. Let's just pull a color from the logo, or you could pull a rainbow color out, whatever. And then you could highlight the keywords, the play and the win. There we go. Fantastic. But to make it a bit more visually interesting, what we could do as well is pull out the most appealing words. So out of play and smarter, which bit is going to resonate more with someone interested in buying this controller? It's going to be the smarter bit, isn't it? So what we could do is we could do something like this. We could pull the text size up and we could really hammer home that. And then we could do the same again. Play smarter, win. Yeah, there we go. Faster. Got text everywhere now. Let's turn the badge off for a minute. Actually, we don't need that. And then we could then go and pick a color. I've kind of already got an idea from the color using some sort of delicious gradient from all the RBG business, RGB. But so how we lock all this text up together is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but at least this way we're pulling out the absolute benefit, because who doesn't want to be smarter and faster, right? And then how you do this is, I mean, there's so many different ways we could try and lay this out. This whole thing kind of, I feel like maybe a center alignment could be better. So we could put it in the center, but that does feel a bit weird. We've got quite a lot of words and not a lot of space. We could move everything down if we needed to, because there's a lot of kind of dead space around here that we're not going to need. So we could create a bit more space. Am I going to make a problem for myself doing that? Possibly. Yeah, because we're going to crop that. And we don't want the controller hanging too low either. So maybe we'll leave that alone for now. We could try and have that there. Yeah, so see the alignment there looks, I feel like a lot of the time alignment needs to feel intentional, whereas that just, it doesn't feel intentional. It feels messy. So I'm kind of actually thinking about going back to 2 lines. And I think I prefer this font as well for the headline. So I've forgotten it already. Play smarter. And sometimes italics can be quite nice as well, especially if you're talking about like speed, you know, win faster. Sometimes having italics, you see it a lot in things that are to do with fitness and gym and movement, you know. So we're talking about playing, we're talking about winning faster speed. Sometimes having italicized text like this can help sell that sort of sense of movement. Yeah, it's a little bit too tight. Play smarter. So we could have that one there and then this one down here and faster. So not everything has to be left aligned and center aligned. Sometimes you can just kind of have things like this, or we could center align it. We could keep it quite close together. Doing something like this feels a bit weird because then the 2 lines are super tight, super close together, but the word play is separated. So as a whole, it feels really weird. It looks like Fast and Furious. Yeah. I mean, I think they use italics in their text and logos, don't they? Which doesn't surprise me. You see it a lot with kind of just anything to do with speed, fast cars, you know, movement, fitness. Yeah, so we'll put a pin in that. We'll put a pin in that. That's very functional. Could it look better? Yes. Are we going to do more to it? Probably. But that is the benefit that we're selling here. Buy this controller and you will become a badass. Play smarter and win faster. Right. So then we've got the other text down here. Because down here it was just really tiny. It was almost like, hey, you can play smarter and win faster, by the way. You know, it's just, it needs to shout. So I didn't really comment on this, but the gradient here is so subtle it doesn't really serve a purpose apart from make the text harder to read because the blue sort of blends into the background. And I think like this is what they've done here is nice. Like this does look visually nice. They've got a nice big bold font and then a title above, tracked wide, almost the same width. Like that does look nice in isolation. But it's not very practical for this and what the purpose of this text has to convey in this design. So it looks nice in isolation, but it's got to be practical as well. Like this is very form over function, you know? Right, so let's get rid of that. Same comment here as well. We've got this gradient on here. The whole thing is unnecessary. The gradient here feels totally random. The RGB Pro has got a very subtle gradient on it as well. I'm not really loving the yellows and the blues. I feel like we should be pulling some of those lovely gradients from the controller. Yeah, and this as well. When you have like one word that gets knocked down onto the line below, it's called a widow because it's on its own. Sad little controller word on its own, and you don't want that ideally. So if you can, you want to either bring that up or adjust the text box so you don't have that. So I'm going to recreate this as a text box. Why has it gone super small? I need bigger text. What is going on? What's happening? I have no idea. Oh, hang on. Maybe it was created as a clipping mask. I think considering this is someone else's file, I'm doing remarkably well. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's bring that back up. We'll set the leading, which is the line height, to 0. Here we go. We'll knock this back up. Now, the great thing about having it as a text box instead is we can now adjust this. So if you do end up with a widow like that, or the weird hyphenation break over 2 lines, which we don't want either. So let's go to paragraph panel and uncheck hyphenate. If you end up with a widow, you just adjust the box and then bosh, it balances nicely. There we go. Right, we'll keep this white for now as well, because at the minute we're not even into adding gradients and all that fluff yet. We're just trying to structurally play Tetris with this whole design and lay everything out. Okay. Right, well, we need to make that bigger. Experience smooth control and next level comfort with this RGB Pro gaming controller. And then we have RGB Pro gaming controller. What are we going to do with this? We've sort of got like a double up here of the wording RGB Pro gaming controller. So do we merge them together, or do we ultra bold this and then get rid of all of this stuff here completely? Or do we have it as a bit of a title, like a subtitle? And then sometimes you get a product, like even a controller, that will have its own logo. So it might have its own font here. So this is the RGB Pro. I don't know, you might call it like the X5, and that will be in a unique font to everything, and it kind of acts as a logo. Yeah, so you're saying the same thing. The RGB Pro gaming controller needs to be removed because it's also in the paragraph. Yeah, that is the question. Do we head it up and then repeat it, or do we get rid of that and then go gaming controller? Bit wordy, but if we try, we might have to 3-line it. Yeah, so do you see what I mean? So instead of repeating RGB Pro gaming controller over and over again, we're just adding it there instead. I mean, we could we get that on one line? And if we can do that, maybe we could drop that word down. You see, so if it sticks out too far and crashes into the product, to be fair, you could probably hide these letters and have them going behind the controller, because it's pretty obvious. Any gamer that looks at that word and can only see these letters, their brain's going to fill in the blanks of, well, it's obviously saying the word controller, because there's no other word that starts with controller. So the brain is very clever most of the time. he says, and it will fill in the blanks, which again, if you have the letters running behind the controller, can help sell that sense of depth. Or we could just literally knock it down. Now, I know what I said about widows a minute ago, but that's more for paragraphs of text, whereas something like this here is not really an issue, you know. If it was like this, if it was like CD, that looks a bit weird. It's more when you've got like a big long line and then you jump to a really short one, it can look a little bit jarring. So if we were to get rid of that and do something like that, how are we feeling about this? Hey, what is up indeed? Instead of this, it would be the. With the, yes, you are absolutely correct. Oops, THT, I can't spell properly. There we go. Experience smooth control and next level comfort. And that is mixing italics and stuff as well at the minute. So what was it? Gotham. So we'll set that back to like a medium for now. That's fine. And then we've got the other font that I can't remember, Epic Pro or something for the actual controller name. Do you know, I've actually had a thought. What I might do is move this up here with this font for the actual controller and have that head up the whole thing. So RGB Pro Gaming Controller, play smarter, win faster. I feel like that reads correctly. This bit here is almost saying introducing. So it's kind of setting up the main title. And that can exist in its own font. And if that's like part of the logo, the RGB Pro, whatever. I kind of feel like I want to give it a name. Because I'm not sure if this is a real ad for a real controller. But would it be called gaming controller, or would it be called like the X5 or something? Do you know what I mean? Like an actual, would you have a proper model name? Get the GR7. Yeah, just something. Gaming controller feels so like generic. RGB Pro GR7. And then down here, we can get rid of that. Experience smooth control and next level comfort. With the, okay, yep. So RGB Pro GR7, we'll go with that. Gaming controller. So we're just adding in the model of the controller. And then again, you can see we've got Widow, but we can adjust it like this. We kind of want to adjust this so we have the product name. We don't want to split that over two lines. There we go. And then we want to pull that out with something. So let's try a bold. Ultra bold? That's too bold. That's definitely too bold. Maybe this one. Book. A little bit lighter. Then we can squeeze a little bit more size out of this. And then shop now. What do we think on the button? I feel like the style does look, it does look very gamey. It's sort of, typically I would not do like bevels and metal bevels and gradients like this. Sometimes bevels can look a bit dated. This does feel a bit more suitable because it's like a gaming controller. It feels like the product itself has been constructed with materials. It feels like the button has been made with materials, metals and rubbers and plastics and whatever. So you could get away with it. Also, we've got to try and figure out the alignment here. Do we want to have central alignment or left alignment so it sort of lines up with the button? And then do we want to bring the product down? Because if I bring the product shot down, I don't know. You create a bit more space up here, but you see here, if this comes down, like it occupies this space quite nicely. And then if I bring this down, it will occupy that space there. So it will kind of fit around these text and logo elements quite nicely. Obviously, I'd have to fix the background. The only reason I would do that would be to create a bit more space up top so that the messaging has a bit more focus. It looks like Oral-B, or like the toothpaste. Right, so I think we're doing pretty well actually in terms of getting a layout. Now I'm not gonna, you could go and add guides, but I'm just gonna whiteboard this because I think my eyes are usually pretty good. So we're trying to keep the spacing around the edge here nice and consistent. So we're gonna add a margin of sorts. So I'm gonna line the button up here and then bring it down as well. So if I were to drag this over here, it kind of, this logo is a bit weird because it's kind of staggered, but to look at a glance, the spacing on the left, right, and the bottom edge is consistent all the way around. It's a bit more organized. You don't have to stick to that, but sometimes when you've got lots of stuff and you want to get a bit of order out of chaos, having a margin structure can help. That's a good point. Yeah, we could introduce weight differences. We could play around with solid gradients. We could possibly even do like a stroke gradient, kind of like you've got here, using some of these colors. If you said right now, like gun to your head, what colors are you going to go with? My brain wants to go with the magenta and the cyan and blend them. I don't know if the purpley blue would get lost in the middle, but there's lots of colors from this controller that we could play around with. So, as you said, we could play around with weight. That's something we can do sometimes. Let's try a different one. Obviously, it's still got to be legible. So if it's too light, it's not gonna necessarily stand out. That would look really good with a gradient, actually. What's this weight here? That's italic, and that one is light, isn't it? Oh, okay. Well, first of all, what I'm gonna have to do is duplicate this into two separate lines, just so I can apply a gradient. So let's separate them out like so. And then what we can do with this win word here is go into the, where are they? Blending options, there we go. And grab gradient overlay. Now this roller in the background could be a slight problem, but let's go and pick a funky gradient. So we'll go for nice magenta. Over here, we're going to have like a super funky kind of very, very cyan-like color. And in the middle, that looks not very nice. Could we get a purple in there? Or is that going to look weird and murky? Sometimes a left to right gradient, this might be a personal thing, sometimes a left to right gradient can feel a bit weird. So while you're like 45 or 60 degrees, you can throw it on a bit of an angle, which can look nicer. And we could reverse it round. Maybe that does look alright, actually. Kind of depends on the words and the font. Obviously, it's not visible at all, which is a massive problem. So it doesn't really leap off the page. The problem here is that This is very vibrant, this is vibrant, and then as they cross over in the middle, the colors kind of dull down quite a lot. Yeah, you could do yellow. You could, because we've got the yellow in the logo as well, but I don't know. Let's duplicate it. We'll try. What about if we did like a yellow here? And let's maybe get rid of this one. Push that out to the end. Slightly bit more mustardy. So it's still got that gradient and those punchy colours, but it stands off a little bit more against the background. But then we've got like some yellow from the logo. This I think what we're going to have to do actually is adjust this part of the background and either move that or make it darker to get a better readout here. Play smarter. Yeah, so even this word here, having the word play with the gradient and this with the gradient feels weird. I kind of almost wish the gradients were like opposite each other. Hey. Yeah, I almost wish the gradients were opposite each other. I'm recording, by the way. Okay. That's right. Get out. Flip the left tube horizontally. Yeah, that's a good point. What, and have it up here? Yeah, I mean, it's quite nice having that one there. They're sort of like opposites almost. But that's not to say we couldn't darken this and then have like the whole controller in a spotlight and then like a vignette and darken the outside edges. It's just this yeah, I'm not sure about this. Light italic. I don't know, maybe if the yeah, it feels weird with them both being the same color unless unless you did them different colors. Let's just try it. And this is the way it goes sometimes. You know, you don't have the answers. You just gotta stagger around trying to figure out what works until it does. Maybe we have the gradient, but over two lines. That could work. So we've got the gradient in there, but we differentiate between these lines a little bit more. Let's hide that one. Oh, there's a cat. Oh, there's another cat. So I think what I might do for this button actually is maybe lean into the whole gradient thing a bit more. I think this will look really nice actually. So we're going to create a rectangle. We're going to set the fill to none. And then we're going to go straight into the blending options. Where are we going? Stroke. Outside, fill type gradient. And then we'll try and create a delicious gradient here. We could go with like a rainbowy sort of gradient. So we could do something kind of funky. Let's just see how it looks. Might look awful, but we will see. Obviously space these apart. And we'll run this maybe 45. Obviously it's way too thick. We'll go for 4 and then round off the corners from the properties panel. You could go full pill shape. In fact, I think I will. Possibly. Yeah, I think I will. And we need some text in there as well. So we use the same font size, I think, here. Shop. No. And can we convert that to point text? Yeah, there we go. So at the moment it's area text, and now we've converted it to point text. Point text is basically click and type without like a text box or anything. I'm not loving the gradient, but that's fine. We can always change that. And I feel like we could sort of create something more consistent with the colors as well. Even their logo, you know, sometimes a logo, it looks fine. Like, this is why you design logos with a solid color iteration, you know, because sometimes logos have lots of different colors and you want to have just a black or just a white reversed out version. So we can kind of fall back on that. You could even blend it in with a blending mode overlay, which kind of lets the image underneath blend through it. The great thing about this is if you have a white or a black logo and you use the blending mode overlay or soft light, what it does is it allows the colors from the design underneath to come through the logo, which can just look a bit more visually interesting than just black or just white. But also it doesn't muck around with your colors because it's just blending with that blue underneath. So it's a little trick that I love to use. You could do it up here as well, to be fair, and duplicate it a couple of times. You can see it doesn't always work. It kind of depends what the background's like behind it, but it's a nice little trick to keep in your back pocket. I've just realized I forgot something actually. We've got the flipping pricing, whatever it is, limited time offer. Totally forgot. Oh, where's that going to go, Dan? Where's that going to go? Right. Well, we're going to have to shimmy you down here. Go on, get down there. And this can go down there as well. So the obvious space is kind of here. And whether we have it as a badge or some written text. I'm not done with this yet, by the way. That's just for now. You quite like that? I like the gradient stroke. It matches with the controller. Yeah, I think thematically it does make sense. We could thicken it up and change the gradient and everything. I mean, as well, we've got to think about it functionally. If it's a poster, you know, it depends what it is. If it's a, like, you know, this isn't a button that someone's going to click. Do you know what I mean? So we've designed it very much like a button, sort of following on from the design. But it's not like someone's going to go up to the poster, whether it's in store or wherever, and start tapping on the poster. I mean, you might get one person. It probably would be me, to be fair. Why is this not doing anything? So would this have a website or a QR code or some sort of, you know, I'm stood in front of the poster. I like it. I want this controller. What action am I going to take? What do you want me to do? Go to a website, go to a QR, scan a QR code. So I don't know if it would need some sort of website or something. I don't know. Just having a shop now it's not really selling it for me. So I feel like it needs a QR code of some description. Yeah, it definitely needs something. Has InDesign got a QR code tool? I haven't used InDesign properly for a long time. Maybe limited offer. Yeah. And we've got to think as well, do we want to have that in a badge? I'm not entirely sure what this is. This asterisk symbol. This is shouting more than any of the actual offer. So it's 20% off. That should be the biggest text by a mile if you want to have it in a badge. You know, the other way of doing it is just writing it. So 20% off today only. If you're saying it's 20% off today only, you don't have to write limited time offer, because the fact that you're saying today only is the same thing. So this is what I was talking about when I said about thinking through this logically about how it's going to be used. And I mean, this is just the way my brain works as well. You know, I'm always thinking like, how is this going to be received? You know, does this make sense? Does the copy make sense? Or are we repeating ourselves? So if we were to just change that to like, I don't know, let's go bold, so it stands out. 20% off today only. I mean, it's kind of cool because it contextualizes this little block here, but we've just basically replaced this whole thing with that line. You know, and there's different ways you could do it as well. So in terms of if you wanted something a bit more, you know, hey, this is 20% off, I want to shout it from the rooftop. You know, you could bump the size. Something like that. And if this is 20%, if this is say this is a poster in a physical store, if it was 20% off today only, you'd assume that all the posters would be taken down at the end of the day, so they wouldn't be advertising it across multiple days. So let's go caps actually. 20%. Oh, I hate working with percent signs. It's a real pain in the ass. In fact, I'll show you a way that you know. Yeah, this is very functional, but there is a way that you can make 20% off look a bit nicer sometimes. So we've got the 20. We'll duplicate it a couple times. And we used to do this for sale graphics back in the day. It was so hard. If you had a bad font, had a weird percent sign, you were scuppered. There was no coming back. But this is a really good way of presenting like X percentage off in a really nice way that puts the emphasis on the actual saving. So then we line this stuff up, so we're kind of matching the height, so we're keeping it consistent and getting the most size out of it. This is, the numbers are a bit too far apart by default. Like this, a lot of numbers do actually track a little bit too wide when it's just a number, so I would personally push them to a bit closer together, and then you can nudge that closer so this sits together like a nice block, and then you can bump that up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you tell me which one of these is looking more, if we balance the size, more effective. You know, that 20 is just shouting at you. So we'll get rid of this one. It depends if you want to write it. You can just write it and it fits, and it's like, you know, fits with the paragraph and everything. But if you want to do like a proper lockup, and then what have we got? Today only. We could then do something down here as well. I'm going to try and keep this same font size here. Remember before I was saying about not having too many font sizes. So if we're lucky, the width of this is going to line up perfectly. Almost. Oh, can I live with that? Can I live with that? I could track it a tiny bit wider. It could be cheeky. Sometimes you can track things a tiny bit wider, and you know, it's very hard to know. Or something else we could do, it's not quite wide enough, is it? So what we could do actually, yeah, this will be a fix, and this will actually help reinforce everything with a bit more structure. is we add a box. And because that box around the text is going to have some padding, it means everything should be hunky-dory. I'm going to sample the background color for now, so it almost looks like it's kind of knocked out. And then we just have to center that inside the box. And then we can nudge the box up. I could actually knock this text out, but I think, yeah, which I might do. For now, I'm just going to sample the color, see how it looks. So in terms of these two here, you see the original badge and we've got now this one. Which one is shouting out that 20% off more, you know? Thoughts on a product rating score as another visual element? Oh, that's a good question, Kevin. Yeah, in terms of content, you could, I mean, you could add lots of things. You could add like a quick testimonial, or if there's like a streamer or someone who is, you know, a well-known gamer on YouTube or whatever, you could have them with a quote from them or something. So there's other marketing bits and pieces you could use. I'm trying as much as possible to sort of stick within what they've got with their design. So I'm sort of trying to take what they've done and then sort of tap it all in place to make it work more effectively rather than sort of introducing new elements. But I like the way you're thinking. That's really cool. So yeah, this actually sits together quite nicely as a little block. Now I'm going to group this because moving this around is going to be annoying. So let's go 20% off in a folder. We could line it up with the other text. I don't know about that shop now. I'm assuming this is in like a shop or a store. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it really makes sense to have that in there. We could literally just do this. Nudge the 20 up. Yeah, that 20, I like that 20% actually. That's really, it's grown on me, that is. I mean, we could make this a lot bigger. It fits that space perfectly, and then it's properly shouting out. I don't know if the hierarchy's quite right. Maybe it's a bit too big. Because you kind of want this to be... Oh, I don't know, actually. What do you want to... No, I guess the poster, you want to shout it out, but then this is also like, hey, by the way, it's today only 20% off. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, so you think play and win should be thicker because you're watching on mobile, but in the nicest way possible, it's also irrelevant because it's a poster. So we're thinking about the person stood in front of the poster. So I agree that it's probably not final yet, and the lightweight, we could be playing with fire there, but we're thinking about not me or you, we're thinking about the person stood in front of this looking at it in the store. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point as well. For a poster, it's better without the shop now because we are trying to sell without being salesy. Yeah, so I guess if you've already got the poster in the store and they're looking at it, you know, yeah, I mean, is it fair to say that people don't like being sold to, like consciously sold to? You know, like buy this, shop now, do this, do that. So I suppose by taking it off, you don't lose anything because they're not going to tap on a poster. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe Kerry might tap the poster. But yeah, so maybe we keep that off and just have it feel a bit less salesy. This bit up here, the play, yeah, the text here, it's too light. I mean, what about a different font? Not even really thought about that. A pixely font would probably be a bit harder to read. It's so exhausting to constantly be sold to. Oh, tell me about it. By the way, if you want to check out my Illustrator, there's a link at the top of it now. Okay. All right. Bad timing. Hey, I gotta stay in business, huh? Oh, anyway, right. What was I doing? I mean, yeah, we could use color in this as well. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, care. You just give me a virtual slap later. That's really nice. Oh, hello. Hello. That is very nice. 20% off. That's cool. Yeah, I'm not sure about this at the top. I mean, maybe I've overcomplicated it. It's entirely possible I've just made things more complicated for the sake of nothing. So let's change that back to white and just see how it looks. It's very easy sometimes to just do things because design, but sometimes actually when you strip things away like that, which is what I do a lot on these review streams, you know, I don't want to be the person who, you know, takes the designer's work and their creativity apart, but sometimes when you do strip those things back, things just seem a lot clearer and easier to understand. You like that? Was it subtle? Yeah, you could do. Let's try it then. Go on then. Go on then. Oh, actually, yeah, the logo's got a different treatment now. What was it? It was something like this, wasn't it? I mean, yellow is yellow and red, isn't it? And some of the most eye-catching colors. So maybe yellow for that would be a good way to go, actually. And even though their logo is not yellow anymore, it kind of subtly reinforces their brand. Or we could just make it yellow again. And then use the exact same yellow from their logo. I mean, getting the yellow from their logo isn't like my main priority, but if we're picking a yellow to make the text stand out and it matches their logo, it's just one of those things that why not? You know? I got no idea. I'm gonna guess maybe like an Xbox or a PC or something. Or maybe it's just a universal controller. I've got no idea really. I want to try something as well in a minute with the blur and the depth of field that might work and might make it look really cool, or it'll ruin everything. Yeah, the yellow is, yeah, to be fair, yeah, you're right. The yellow is complementing the blue. Oh, I would like to get those gradients in, but I don't know. Unless maybe this bit, the RGB, maybe that could work. Let's try this. One, two, do, do. We'll separate these out. Like so. And then we'll make the text here, the RGB text, which stands for red, green, and blue. We'll make that some sort of color. We'll just pick that for now. It kind of needs to be lots of colors. Or what about a stroke? Hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit thin, I think, there. But maybe as a fill. What about like blues to greens? Something. Yeah, it's not RGB enough. We need a we need a flipping rainbow gradient, really. Let's just get some. Oh, that could be kind of cool. Something hovering around there. Definitely does take a bit of tinkering. Yeah, as you can see, when you scroll through these, some of the colors just create like a really not a very nice blend, but they also like are quite hard to see. Let's just try something like that. Yeah, just I thought that just then. I don't think it would work though. The blue would immediately disappear. I'm going to bring these a bit closer together. The lines and the words. Just so it's all a little tighter. Yeah, we're definitely on the right path. I mean, let me try again, getting rid of that, bringing it back to white and changing the blending mode to overlay. And that could work. Or maybe just even white. Maybe I should just leave it at white. Yeah. So I think we've kind of nailed the layout, I think. I think from a hierarchy point of view, it's you got your title, primary bit of information, secondary, and then tertiary. I think it's really good in that sense. I'm going to just go back to the image and try something with this. And hopefully it doesn't go wrong. So let's duplicate the image folder. We will convert the whole folder to a smart object. And I'm going to try adding a tilt shift. This is like a gradient blur, which is really cool. So we'll mirror the angle of the controller. So the area between these solid lines is going to be super in focus. And then as you go between the solid line and the dashed line, it's going to gradually blur to this value up here. So if I crank this up, you can see we can go ultra crazy depth of field. But I think even something like that is really cool, actually. Yeah, so we've got the focus on all the buttons and stuff, and then as you get to the edge of the controller here, it just blurs out a little bit. And the clever thing about this as well is it's blurring a little bit of the product, but it's also hiding the edge of the product. So if the product edge isn't cut out perfectly or whatever, or doesn't look realistic, you can sort of hide and mask that a little bit. And now the blur has created a bit of an issue here, but we could just, if I grab this and just scale it up a bit, I'm just going to oversize it very slightly just to crop out that blur. Yeah, I mean, RGB Pro was the name before. We've added GR7 just because it felt like it needed a model. If you got rid of, I mean, you could get rid of it, but right. Background's oversized. And then what we could try and do, how am I going to do this? Exposure. We'll clip this to the image, darken it down and boost the gamma correction a bit. And then we're going to grab the gradient tool, nice default black to white gradient, the radial version of it. Let's go the other way around. Yeah, there we go. So we're just going to pull loads of focus onto the product and sort of add like a subtle vignette. So it's doing this. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to boost the middle even more. So brightness and contrast, super simple adjustment layer, but this is an absolute win. I flipping love this adjustment layer so much. So we're going to hide that and then just use that lovely soft brush just to brush over the details, the gradients, the lights, you know, the bits that we want to stand out. And they're just gonna pop off the page a bit. So here's before. Everything's just a bit more flat. Here's after. It's just a bit more dramatic and in your face. And then we can go and dial that up or dial it down once you've got the mask set. So I'm going to probably land on like 30, I think. So it just pulls focus there with the vignette darkening the outer edge, the brightness and contrast, you know, bringing up the details on the controller, the bit where we want people to focus. And then we've got the blur in the background as well. That again is just helping to pull focus to the center by blurring everything around the edges. Brush size B, left and right square brackets on the keyboard. Should off be yellow as well? Yeah, possibly. Sometimes when you get a little bit too granular and you kind of make one word and one letter a different color, it can get a bit like, yeah, maybe having that and just separating it into two halves. 20% off today only. That's probably a bit better. Oh, I just don't like the yellow. It just doesn't feel... I'm going to do a version 2. I don't know if it just feels a little bit too corporate or something. I don't know. What would be kind of cool would be to somehow Photoshop in, it'd take a while, but like having some tape wrapped around the controller, piece of tape that says 20% off today only written on it, or work it into the image somehow. I don't know. I don't know. Or some sort of badge resting on the surface. This is taking me back to the sale graphics I used to do years ago, which was like for a big company. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It feels more corporate. Yeah, maybe Raquel. We could try a badge actually. I feel like a round badge might be nice. Yeah, let's give it a go. I don't know. I want to get rid of the yellow. It's going to sound like a sulky child then. I don't like it. Yeah, I feel like a woman. Right, anyway, what we could do is we could add this. Sorry, I got my inner Shania Twain came out then. Got 20% off. God, that's a few years ago. We could put a circle around the edge and then have today, what was it? Today only, going around the badge, around the circle. So let's do a circle. Yeah, so to type on a path in Photoshop, I rarely use this because I always do it in Illustrator. You need to have a path or a shape, something with a path. Just grab the normal type tool, hover over the edge, and you'll see the squiggly line appear on the cursor. click and then you can type. It's got my font, which is good. Today only. So let's do that. Paste it around. And then, actually, no, we kind of want space between the words. So we'll do a few. Actually, no, we don't know. What am I doing? What on earth am I doing? We don't want to repeat that 1,000 times. Good Lord. That is an eyesore. How many? 3? Maybe? Sometimes you can add like a bullet point in between them. Can you do special characters? Where's my glyphs panel? I've not got my thing up. Let me just copy a bullet point from the old Google. There we go. That's one way to do it. And let's bring the spacing back. We'll tap twice. 1, 2. Today only. And we'll paste that in. Today only. And then we'll do another bullet point. And doing it a 4th time might be excessive. But let's see if we can close the gap. So maybe 16.2, 16.3. Yeah, we're getting super granular with the type size just so we close that gap. So it's equal on both sides. And then we can bring, is that the circle? Oh my goodness, it's getting hard to select things now. Let's bring that down. And then the 20% off could sit in the middle. Obviously, I've got the sizing totally botched at the minute. Oh dear. Yeah. See, I think at the minute, this today, whatever it is, text is competing a bit too much. Right. What we can do, we can actually change the 20% off text blending mode knockout to shallow. And then if we take that and the ellipse and then group them together, and then bring the fill down to 0, it will knock out the text. So now I could go and change this and it just quite literally punches it out of the circle, the other shape in that group. But you've got to drop the fill down to 0. Don't forget that or it won't do anything. This, let's try making it smaller so it's not competing with everything. Yeah, I think aesthetically it's a little, I think I prefer it a little bit. It's not totally correct yet. It's a little bit messy. I think today only. Yeah, so we could use that blending mode trick to set that back a little bit. So it's visible, but it's not stealing attention from the main Bit of messaging. And then maybe actually we get rid of the ellipse. Maybe we do just have the text white in that shape. That could be kind of cool. Or we could change the color. So we'll set the fill to 0 and we'll give it a white stroke. Thicken it up a little bit, just so it adds like a bit of structure. We could even duplicate it and double it up so the text around the edge has some sort of container, but I feel like that's a bit much. Yeah, maybe. Because the spacing does feel weird, doesn't it? You could have the word off on its own, but then on its own it might look a bit odd as well. Or then could you have the percent below? I don't know. It could look a bit weird. Yes, you could do a sticker effect. That we do actually. If you're enrolled in the Photoshop Masterclass, here we go. Shameless plug. There's a whole module on graphic design and posters and stuff, mock-ups. But there's a whole lesson on how to make a realistic sticker as well. So like curling up the corner, adding the shadows, the texture. So if you are enrolled in that and you've not done it yet, then look forward to that. It's a fun one. I couldn't find anyone else teaching that on YouTube, like how to go sort of super realistic with it, even adding the wrinkles to the sticker as well. So you could go the sticker route, which again would be quite fun to put the sticker on the controller. And honestly, that's probably one of the examples where if I was doing this for a project and I was up against it and I could get a decent result with it, using like, I don't know, Nano Banana Pro or something, I could design my own sticker. This would be fun actually. I could design the sticker like this, take the controller image, chuck them both into the AI thing and say put the sticker, wrap it round here on the controller. And I bet you it would do a pretty decent job as well. So it would kind of take out the need for having this separate object and it would live on the design. I mean, yeah, it's stuck on the controller then, so it kind of affects how the product is presented. But I don't know, it could be a fun way of merging the product with the offer messaging. Yeah, that's a good point, Raka. We could rotate it as well. You can, I think maybe for this as well, actually, with the controller being rotated, it could look kind of cool. The today only thing is bothering me. It's just too. It's too in your face. So if I turn it off. Oh, now it looks naked. Oh no. Unless, and I might get absolutely hammered by you all for this. What if we did today only in the same box? I mean, sometimes you just got to try things, right? I don't know if it's going to work, but then we change the color to this. So they're read as two separate bits. Hopefully that's the plan anyway. What do you reckon? I feel like that could work actually. It's a bit unorthodox. What if you remove the circle stroke and just keep the today only path? Yeah, I think we did have that before. Where is it? Obviously without the, hang on, let me just hide these two. So yeah, you're saying something like that. Yeah, maybe. Actually, no. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't hate it, and I could probably squeeze a little bit more size out of the 20% as well. But what do you think to that, just out of interest? Yeah, you want me to rotate it, don't you? I'm guessing this doesn't have an italicized version. No, it's just extra bold, I think. I think it actually works. That's, yeah. I don't know if I've ever done that before. Doubling up different types of messaging, split like that, but using color to separate them. And then if I were to go back to their more subtle logo, get rid of that yellow, because I don't like that yellow, I'll be honest. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Let's just try this. I might be making it worse here. Yeah, doing my best. How about the exact opposite? Like 20% off goes around, and in yes, you could do. I'm not going to do that right now, just because I really like the 20% off. I really like this idea. Actually, I think this is such a clean implementation because even just in terms of like if we talk about busyness, you know, we've got today only written once, it's clear, you can read it. It doesn't compete with the 20% off because the contrast on that is so high. The 20% off is still shouting louder, but this is still visible. And if we have it around the outside, we have to repeat it 4 or 5 times, and it just, you know, what we've done this whole stream is trying to streamline this and make it simpler and make the messaging more on point. And I feel like going from that I'm like, yep, this is good, I want to move on from this forward. I feel like going back to having lots of words around the outside is kind of going back a step. Does that make sense? And we could, if we've got, you know, we could move this up over the controller and still do the blurry thing that they had before. I like it more than the previous. What if today only were curved to to match the path? Yeah, you could do. You could have 20% off, and then you could have the curve under there. The only reason I wouldn't go back to that is because whilst I think that would work, if I take today out of here, today only out of there, and move it down, I've got these gaps again. And I just feel like this just sort of completes it. It just fills that space in a way that works. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like as a solution, I didn't actually think that would work, but hey ho, that is the part of design, I guess. You just try things and see what sticks. I think the color needs to be a bit punchier, so I'm going to go with like a light blue, so it sort of complements the whole blue theme. Why can't I copy and paste you? Why are you not copying my color? 00F CFF. Let's try again. No, it's not 00F CFF. And then I know, Raquel, you were very, very keen on me rotating this, weren't you? So we'll go 20% off badge. I'm going to do my layers before someone tells me off. I think we're going to stick with this one today. This one's been like a proper mammoth project. So I think we'll stick with this one. We'll wrap this one up and this will be good. Okay, rotation wise. Yeah, this is a tricky thing. Where do you put it? I'm usually a very... No, you don't really want to rotate it with the angle of the controller. I feel like you want to contrast with it. Oh, I don't know actually. Do I want to rotate it? I don't know. I think it definitely fills this space quite nicely. We could make it bigger. I mean, we could even do something cool that might not make sense at all, but you could have the ring around the outside go behind the controller, which could look kind of cool. So if I were to do this, for example, and select the ellipse. Now you can't add a mask and do this just before anyone tries it. If you try and do this, it's going to like mix with the blending option stroke and it's all just going to break apart. So if you do want to do this, what you got to do is convert this to a smart object. So the blending options aren't in play anymore. And then you can just cut out. If you want to change the stroke weight though, remember it's a smart object. So you just double click to go inside it and you've got it all there. But yeah, so smart objects are amazing in that regard. They get things to play nicely. It's the same if you're using liquify or puppet warp with masks. Sometimes it can just cause all sorts of problems. So just convert it to a smart object and then do your thing. So you could do something like that. I don't know if that looks a bit weird. If I'm honest. It doesn't really, it makes the perspective look weird because it's meant to be resting on a surface. So yeah, honestly, it does feel a bit weird. I think I want this to sit in front. Yeah, we talked about the shadows at the beginning, didn't we? We could go in and do some little contact shadows. So this is what they've done. Let's try it. What we got there, the reflection. So let's, yeah, we'll soft light the reflection. So before and after. So you see, just by using soft light, we still got the reflection, but it's embodying the color of the surface as well. So kind of the same as the shadow. But what they've done is just apply a Gaussian blur. So it just applies it across the entire thing. We don't want motion blur because there is no motion. So instead we're going to use tilt shift again. And these seem like very granular details, but when you apply all these little details across product retouching, it makes a massive difference. We do a lot of this stuff, a lot of product retouching in Photoshop course, which is on Dansky.com as well. Just because I did a lot of product retouching throughout my whole career, so that's something that I'm sort of pretty attuned to. Yeah, so what we're going to do is the reflection here is going to be much sharper because it's really close, and then as you get further in, it's going to blur a bit more. So here we've got like a gradual blurring of the reflection. So if we do something like that, that's a bit more realistic. And when it comes to the shadow, there's so many different ways to do it. So I think what they've done here is grab black and just get like an ellipse and just blur it. Whereas, I mean, there's so many different ways to do this. The way that I like is it this way? Let's try this. I do it differently every time, I swear. So we'll just fill a black circle in and we'll call it shadow. Convert to smart object. And then we'll try and get the positioning. Is it on an angle? Slight angle, but we'll keep ours flat for now. We can angle it after if we need to. So we've got that there. And then what we can do is, again, we're going to use tilt shift. Now this time we've got to rotate it 90 degrees. So the middle is going to be super in focus. And then if we bring these in, yeah, so the center, right where the product touches the surface, the shadow is going to be at its hardest. And then by the time we get out to the edge here, it's going to be softer because the distance between the surface and the product is more. So it kind of gets softer as it goes towards the edge. Let's bring this right into the middle, actually. And obviously you can go and push this to the absolute extreme. And it looks really weird and artificial. But let's just do it subtly for now, so it doesn't look too silly. Do we bring that in or do we push it out? What are you thinking, Dan? Yeah, maybe like that. That's a good start. And then to harden up this middle bit and everything else a bit more as well, we could then just go and layer on a Gaussian blur as well. So not too much, because we're just going to end up back where we started and we've completely ruined the harder part in the middle. So maybe something like 2 would be good. And then we're going to grab a layer mask, a nice soft brush. I'm going to drop the flow super low. And then we're just going to brush away at the sides. So we're going to keep the middle nice and black, and then the sides are just going to get much softer. And then do we want to bump that up a bit? And then we can still go back in and adjust the size. So maybe we'll make that thinner and wider. All these things together take a lot of tinkering to get them looking right. So if you are new to this stuff, please don't be discouraged if you don't hit it straight away. Like I sometimes spend ages mucking around with shadows and things. And then you've got to think about where the light's coming from. So is the shadow going to lean more to one side? You know, like if the light is coming from, where's it coming from? Kind of up and to the front. Should the shadow be sort of pulling over this way more? Should the shadow actually be a little bit tighter and a bit taller? So there's loads of stuff to play around with. I'm not going to overthink it too much. Yeah, so here the shadow's a bit softer because the light's kind of shining there, so we could soften that a bit more. But then this bit here is properly in shadow, so it's a bit darker. So we could just pull it out a bit more there. And nudge it up. But yeah, because it's a smart object, we've got both blurs, we've got our mask, we can change our color. We've got full flexibility. Color. I mean, actually, we could just do a blending mode thing. This might actually work. So we'll just sample blue. Then we'll go dark like this. See the difference? So black and blue. There's not much in it, to be fair, with this example, but sometimes there is, and it's really obvious. So that's okay for now. Is it the best shadow I've ever done? No, but you know, it's like anything. Secret ingredient is just time if you want to get it looking beautiful. There's another shadow over here. And then again, we've got the controller. So we're going to soft light blend that one in. We could try and, well, let's do the angle. Which I think that does actually, yeah, that does make it look better. That fits. And then we'll duplicate it and we'll throw it over there. And if you wanted to have the product kind of sitting off like a surface raised, then you can just do your shadows like this. And obviously without the reflections, it's a very easy way to make something look like it's floating in the air, which could look kind of cool. I mean, the shadows as well, we could even just drop the opacity and just make them a bit more subtle. Yeah, let's go for like 75%. Yeah, I mean, I could play around with that for hours. I think for what I'm doing here, this would probably be fine. Right, let's save that and go back into the main document anyway. the only thing I'm stuck on is this color. Oh, I don't know. I feel like I actually like this sort of color. 00FF96. It's so hard. 00FF96. If you've ever tried picking colors before, sometimes it can just be like, I just can't find the right color. I think I'm almost ready to call it. Possibly. I prefer the ellipse here than the written text. The written text was fine, having it written. Nothing against it. I just think this is a bit more fun. Don't know. It's a nice way of presenting two different sets of information. I mean, you could even make it smaller. You know, it doesn't have to be this ginormous. We could shrink it down a bit, nudge it. Hello. Oh, are you watching the stream? Hey, true fan has entered the chat.
And cuddling the dogs.
The dogs?
Yeah, Lara got locked out of the house, so
oh no.
Brought it out, so dog sitting for.
Oh, what, has your dad gone back to sort her out in the house?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a problem, isn't it? You do not want to get locked out of the house. Don't know why I went bad Scottish then.
Leo's with them.
Oh, okay.
Apparently he's loving all the drama. They had to break open the lock.
Leo's
just there, like, oh, great.
He's loving it, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe when he gets back, we'll just be like, "Come on, Leo, let's take a chainsaw to the garage back door."
Oh, God, no.
We haven't got a chainsaw. Let's just get a hammer. We'll get a sledgehammer, Leo. Today we're just gonna destroy a door. Why? Because, well, for fun. Hey, Alana. Oh, long time no see. The cats. The last I saw them, they were scurrying into the kitchen. If they're like cuddled up in the kitchen, like the adorable little cowards they are, it will be magical. Right, let's have a look at the original. Oh, sorry, the ellipse is on the shadow. My bad. Yeah, the shadows would take. I mean, the other thing with shadows as well. Actually, let me just go back into it. I know you're still there. Yeah, like I honestly, I would spend longer on the shadows, and sometimes, yeah, an ellipse doesn't make sense. Another way that you could do it, for controllers, is, well, you could brush it manually and build it up, or you could do this sort of shape, just like a blob, and then smart object that, then add a layer mask. Just have one of the cats there. I think I've probably done this a bit too soft. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can do shadows. You could do this sort of shape. Oh yeah, that looks better. Yeah, there's loads of different shapes. The ellipse is sort of like the default shape because it does work for a lot of products. So we'll call this Shadow V2. Good shout at Thief though, yeah. But I just wanted to demonstrate there's lots of different ways you can do it. But I always brush in. It's always a similar sort of process. Brushing, masking. Let's get that color overlay on there. Tilt shift if you need it. Oh, is that the cat? Cat outside. Can you hear that? Andrea's like, I hear a baby. Oh, that circle is making my eye twitch. Which circle? This circle. You don't like the circle? Let's just grab the original. I always like this part. We can see it's kind of like how it started and how it's going. Okay, so here's the original. We've not done loads with the actual product photography. We've tightened it up a little bit and adjusted a few bits and pieces, set these, elements back. I think the biggest thing is adjusting the type, the hierarchy, what the actual messaging is, and the 20% off. So the poster not only looks great, it's actually going to do what it is supposed to do, and that is convey some sort of message to someone. So if we switch to the updated one, you can see it's a little bit more streamlined. I probably would still, I would obviously carry on working on this. Like I wouldn't just smash out a poster and say that that's the end of the day. Like it still feels like it needs something else, maybe. But I think in terms of the layout and functionally, you can see the difference. We've made it a lot more practical, and I think it's now conveying a very specific message a lot more. Oh yeah, we could add the pixel effect back in. I think because I've added the tilt shift, it's blurred the background again. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother adding it in back now. Back in right now, but yeah, we could go and add that back in if we wanted. That's kind of like the icing on the cake, if you get to the end of the process and you're like, oh, go on, let's add the little mosaic lines back in. Yeah, I think something else I probably would do that hasn't really had any, it's not had a lot of consideration, is the fonts. I think with this they are pretty good. I think what's that? Montserrat, I think. I think it's pretty good. But I would, what? What are you meowing at? But yeah, I would go through the fonts and try a whole bunch of other fonts as well, just to make sure that I've picked what I think is the best option. I don't know about this. Do you think I don't know if the badge needs to go central or not, and sit centrally with the text? Oh, it's so funny, and you can feel something's off. It just can't quite put your finger on it. Oh, yeah. Unless you go over there, you go up here. Remember what I said earlier? It is literally a game of Tetris. Trying to figure out where to put everything. You don't want to rotate it too hard because otherwise it gets really hard to read. And if I did this, I would need to do the blur thing. So maybe that could be quite nice. It's not obscuring too much of the product. I don't know about the angle though. Oh, I don't know. I've always found pricing stickers really challenging because I like everything being like ordered, and when you rotate things and they feel random, it's like introducing chaos and it short circuits my brain. So I don't know. But then that can look too rigid sometimes. But I don't know. So it's another way that it's just balancing those two elements. What do you think? This or the way before? Or nothing? Have I completely missed the mark with it? So if I go back a few steps. That's before. That's after. Oh, you prefer this one, do you? That's all right, Alana. This is the first and last one. We've dug into like one specific project today because I saw this, and as I said earlier, like there's so much I love about it, and there's so much that I think needs work on it, and it's more the type side of things. So I wanted to apply a bit of methodical thinking to it to make sure that it's doing what it needs to do. I mean, this could work. It's definitely like it balances everything out, I think, quite nicely. Yeah, actually, I think I might prefer that before. I think trying to left align the circle to the text felt a bit weird. Not sure about this text. Does it need to be bigger? Oh, what's he done? Oh no. We've gone ultra big. No. Yeah, maybe that could work. Let's group that together. Where's the other group? There we go. Just align them so they sit centrally. God, I could mess around with this all day. 15 degrees clockwise. Go on then. Yeah, I mean, it's quite common seeing pricing stickers rotated like that, almost like they've just been stuck on. I mean, there's so many. You could do something a little bit Inception-y, and you could have the entire corner of this design curling up like a page, like it's almost like a page, and it's curling up. So there's like a layer under the poster revealing the 20% off under here. Do you know what I mean? So imagine you've got a poster underneath, you stick this one on top of it, and then you're peeling this one back to reveal the 20%. And that would occupy this space here perfectly. So it wouldn't encroach on anything. Oh, I was afraid you were going to think that was a good idea because now I've got to do it. Go on then. I can't. Yeah, I think that will be a really good idea actually. And the 20% off. It wouldn't be able to fit in the same badge way, but we'd probably be able to get it in there. Oh no, we're gonna have to try it, aren't we? All right, let's get some music. This might take a minute. Dee dee dee. If you're doing a page curl effect, I 100% recommend grabbing a reference image. So, um, like sticker peel. Or do we want page turn? Yeah, slightly different. That okay, I've got one. This is the perfect one. And again, there's 1,000 different ways to create this, and doing it live, I'm probably gonna do it the wrong way, but doesn't matter as long as I get it done. So use this as a reference. I mean, could we just? I mean, we could just use that. I've just grabbed that from Google. Obviously, you need to do it from a stock site. Oh no, that's No, I got to do it myself, haven't I? We can at least see how it's going to look. Oh yeah, that is it. That is the winner. So where's my 20%? There you are. Come here, you beauty. Put you back to 0. Then we got to rotate you pretty steeply to mirror the thing. Brain is short-circuiting. Let's try and mirror the same sort of blue color because it will contrast really nicely. And then we can definitely push that into the corner a bit more and shrink that down. What do you reckon? Is that worth pursuing? I feel like it is. It should be like a cool effect as well. Post-deception. Right, let's hide the 20% then. I'm going to mark that up with indigo. That is my favorite one. So now we've got to recreate this. So first of all, what I'm going to do is make myself a box, and to make it white, this is going to be like my little canvas that I'm going to work on. This is the hardest part, getting this shape. How do I do it? You can do it in Photo. I don't really use Photoshop's pen tooling a lot. I use it in Illustrator. So how do we do this in the course? Because you want to do it with precision as well. Maybe we rotate 45 degrees and we make it symmetrically, and then I can rotate it back. This is going to be a lot easier. So we're going to have that there. So start this. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then we need another shape. Slightly different color. We'll go with like a gray. We're just building the blocks. So we'll grab this one. A little bit of roundedness there. Let's include it. But we've got to try and get it so it's perfectly symmetrical. So whatever we do here, it's got to flow. And then we're coming down this side here. And then we've got to link up with this side. About there. And then we can just connect this up, move it behind. I think that should translate quite well. If it was Illustrator, I could get it to do the curve like smoothly with the different tool sets, but I think that'll be okay. So we can copy these. We're going to flip it horizontal. Oops, let's duplicate it first. I don't know why I do that. I don't right click and just flip it like there. I always go up into the edit menu. Just habit. Yeah, there we go. So we've got a nice, perfect, curvy, knobbly bit. Might need a bit of refinement, but now we should be able to rotate this back. And then we can sort of start to build the pieces. So let's set this color to a different color as well. So we're just, actually no, we'll change the color of the canvas. It's just so I can see what I'm doing against the blue in the design. Got a bit of a weird pixel line going on down there. So we might have to bridge that together. So we're going to combine those two shapes together. And then we'll combine the two other shapes. And yeah, we can force them to overlap now. Which is just going to get rid of that weird little oddity. And then we can turn that off because we don't need it. So we've set up the shapes for our sticker. We can, yeah, or maybe it didn't need the roundness, but we can actually go and sharpen that if we need to. And then where's my reference? Yeah. In fact, actually, haven't I got all this? We could sharpen that just by moving these a bit closer to the point. Like this. It's not going to be quite symmetrical, but with a page turn, it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. You know, because it's a page turn at the end of the day. You know, so we can kind of get away with it. Okay. Right, this bit here. So now we need to set both these to like a base color. So I'm going to go with the F7s. And then we've got a brush along here. I'm going to brush in with an exposure adjustment layer because I don't want to use a specific color. Because if I use adjustment layers to add the shadows and things, I can change the color underneath. I'll try and show you in a minute. So we'll darken that or hide it. Brush tool, white, nice low flow value. We're just going to run along here. And so it's lighter at the top there. And then down here, we're going to do, well, we'll use the same adjustment layer. Just start with a clean one. And now we've got to brush in some shadows along there. And this does take a bit of practice. I mean, the brush tool, I just love the results that you can get with it. It does take, it's like there is a little bit of an art to it, but I'm definitely not an artist by any means in terms of like drawing and stuff. So It's just, yeah, maybe something like that. And then maybe at the very top here, I'm going to add, let's blow it out to complete white. This will be really subtle, but it'll let me just add some brilliant white to the very end. You see the difference? Really subtle. It's gone from there. And then on top of the whole thing, let's grab that as well. We'll call it page curl. We want to add some noise as well. So we'll make a new layer. We'll fill it with black, filter, noise, add noise, Gaussian monochromatic, crank it up, and then soft light blending mode, clip it to that folder, and then bring it down super low. 14, 15. Yeah, I mean, this is very noise heavy anyway, this design, so a little bit of noise is good. And the reason it's good to add noise is when you create things in vector format, they're perfectly crisp, clear. Everything's just so clean. It's the same with 3D graphics. They can look too perfect. So when you introduce a little bit of noise, it's kind of like the noise you would get in a photo. So we're introducing a little bit more realism back into the design. That's how I see it anyway. So yeah, 10-15% on the noise. And if you really wanted to be super particular with it, you could blur the edges slightly. Because like I just said, you know, these are vector shapes. They're perfectly crisp. Whereas if we were to, we're getting very granular here, by the way. All in the name of realism, though. If we go for a 0.5 on the blur, you see what it does? It just softens it. So we've gone from perfectly crisp, slightly soft and more realistic. So when you zoom back out, it's just gonna, you won't be able to see that it's blurred, but it just looks slightly more real. And then if you want to go and sharpen this, just make sure you grab a hard brush. Oops. And then we can just go in and actually, no, not a hard brush. Oh no, yeah, hard brush, that's fine. I'm just going to turn off the blur while I do this. And then we can just sculpt the end a little bit. This is the less ideal thing, but it's just, you know, sometimes you just got to do it. So this is a workaround and you get a slightly harder edge there. And then we can turn the blur back on. Bosh. And then where's my 20% hiding? You beauty. There you go. I mean, it's so much you could do because we've got this shape here underneath. It's obviously locked up in there now. You could have like yellow under there. Oh, it's. Can I show you? Yes. So because we did the exposure adjustment layers with the shadow, sorry, with the exposure layers, instead of having black or a specific color, they blend to any color now. We can put any color under there. Save it, go back, boom. Same for the page turn as well. We could add any sort of texture, crumpled paper. Let's make it a slightly more exciting blue. Why are you not changing color? Ah, there we go. It's being governed by another cheeky folder. I think it makes sense to have this all the same color. Yeah, there we go. Bit darker. And down there we need the... Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mr. Harsh R. Raval. Today only. Are we going to get that in there? Oh, this is fun. Hopefully you've enjoyed this stream today. This is we're going to mix it up, so I need more work submitted. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's just, it was meant to be. It fits in that space. Let's just rotate this. Hang on. There we go. So now I can not sort of cock my head to the side very uncomfortably. Let's just... Yeah, there we go. I think I'm going to bold this a bit more as well. Oh no, actually, ultra might be too much. Today only. Color for that. Do we do it all the same or? You think red? Is that for urgency, Raquel? Let's go for like a reddish, almost pink. Yeah, I suppose actually. Yeah, I think it fits with this actually. You got those sorts of colours there, and it does just pull your eye to it a little bit. Oi, look over here. Only today. Get a move on. Buy the controller. So yeah, that's what we want the poster to say. Oi, you, Ginger, you need this. Yeah, maybe a bit of a darker blue, I think. Oh, something else. There's something else I've just missed actually. So because we're curling the page back, it's going to cast shadows around here and here. Not so much the top. So again, all in the name of realism. We got to go here, add an exposure layer, dial it down, nice and dark. And then just again, with a really low flow value, just brush in. Ooh, yuck. Hardness at 0. Don't forget that. Just brush in. So before and after. It's quite hard to see down there at the bottom, but here it makes a little bit more difference. Yeah. I mean, you could even have the 20% off written in a handwritten font, but pretty nice. Looks cool. Nice. The smartest way to make it recognizable. Okay. I think the only thing I probably would, I mean, obviously the whole thing, like in reality, you know, if this was a project, I would finish the stream and I would then spend a few more hours refining, refining, refining. That is the secret sauce to getting any design looking better. Yeah, maybe here I would just adjust the shadows, maybe brush in like an edge, like a very thin sort of paper edge, and then just, yeah, maybe just make the page scale darker. I'm going to play around with it now, aren't I? Just a bit more darker, so it's not so sort of brilliant white. Before, after. Yeah, I don't know. Lots of playing around just to get it looking realistic as well. It's like a blend of realism and effectiveness. Oh, oh. Right, there we go. Despite having the link to the Illustrator course at the top of the chat the entire time, I thought we were going to be in Illustrator today, but hey ho, if you do want to check out, there's that, and then there's the Photoshop course. Beginner all the way through to the most advanced stuff I teach. So if you like the design side of this with the type and you want to get better at doing typography, logo design, all manner of stuff, illustrations, icons, or you want to do the photo retouching side of it, or you want to do all of it and just learn kind of what's in my head as quickly as possible, I've got courses for Photoshop and Illustrator on Dansky.com. And I finally packaged up my brain into a course. So there we go. And obviously with the course you get support from me. So if you ever get stuck, have questions, or any of this, none of it makes sense, whatever, I'm here to help you. So does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? Yeah, I think this turned out pretty well. Let's do one more final check against the original. It's always fun doing the before and the after. Yeah, so there's the before. There's the after. Before. After. Oh yeah, this has been pretty fun. Yes, the effect is missing. The Yeah, where did I put it? Put it somewhere. We over blurred it with this. So in fact, actually, if I just turn that, oh no, I need that effect because it hides a lot of the sort of scuffed edge of the product. I'll have to go in here. I'm coming in to get you. Now, where is it? Where is the filter effect? Good lord, what have I done with it? Is it that one? No. Where on earth did I put it? Oh, there we go. Mosaic texture. Yes, let's make that blue so I never lose it again. Right, okay, let's try duplicating that into the main document. It's because I added a blur in the main document and it just completely blurred out that entire mosaic effect. So if we add this back in, I might have to manually adjust the position. Oh, it's not all of them are showing. Okay, fine. That's fine. We will remake it ourselves. This is why you this is why you organize your layers. Oh no, there we go. Oh good. Good boy, Dan. I still had it all in a text folder. Right, okay. Okay. We'll duplicate this background thing and then what was it? Mosaic. We'll do that. I mean that is kind of cool. I quite like them just the mosaic on its own. But then we've got the what's it called? My brain has run away. Filter gallery. Glowing edges, there we go. And then we change the blend mode to is it this one? I think it was that, but I'm going to go with screen. And then we should just be able to brush a bit of that back in. You can't really see it down here. I mean, you could brush it around the edge of the product as well. And turn the text back on. Maybe a little bit on the product. We don't want it to be too much on the product, because we're already blurring a lot of stuff out. So I think we'll use it and try and keep it sort of subtle. But yeah, I think it does definitely sort of help sort of sell the sort of tech side of things. There we go. You happy? I think as well this probably needs... Oh, it doesn't have like an extra bold. It has to go to ultra bold. Yeah, that's just too much for me. So I don't know. I might switch the font out. I want something in between that. I can't see the extra bold. It just jumps me to ultra chunk. Whereas like a slightly thicker one would be really nice there. But yeah, that's turned out pretty well, I think. I'm going to call that a day. Yeah, no, it's a good effect. Like sometimes I sort of see filter effects and they sort of they don't really help the design look more professional. They look sort of like a bit more amateurish sometimes, but I think here's a really good use of those effects. Sometimes the filter galleries and that, if used improperly, can just make things look just a bit worse. But I think here, when it's like tech related or something, having that you know mosaic style with the edges glowing and then blending it in, just it does fit the theme, I think. Oh yeah, there's so many things you could do. I mean, you could even add like a noise texture to the whole image as well, which I am sort of tempted to do. So just fill it with black, noise, Bosch, soft light, 10. So again, you've got all these super clean gradients, and then by adding the noise, it just helps blend the photoshopped elements with the real product photos. So everything just has noise then, and it's subtle, but it just makes it all just feel a bit more realistic. Oh, right. I'm gonna go and forage some food and try and find some sausages from somewhere. Oh, thank you very much, everyone, for joining the stream. It's been a lot of fun, as always. And I think the next one will probably be on Thursday. I'll confirm a time in the Discord. It'll probably be similar sort of time, 3, half 3, or something like that. But yeah, good work. Oh, good. Devour some food. Absolutely. I'm going to savage whatever I can find in the kitchen. Thanks, Raquel. Yeah, I do want to play around with this more. We'll see. Right. Have an amazing evening, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye.